Assalamu alaikum. How are you? What are you doing these days? Must be preparing for your midterm. So what's the topic today? Inquiry letters or direct request? We have so far covered many topics of communication. We have discussed communication, different aspects of communication, principles of communication, the cultural aspect of communication, then preparatory steps of communication, how we can choose any writing plan, all deductive and inductive plan, and we discuss few other things, right? Now we have to start writing letters, messages, memos, proposals and reports. I mean, this is what we are supposed to do, and all the previous lectures were basically to lead us to this destination. Normally in books on communication, when this stage comes, the writers of the book divide correspondence or messages into two types. Direct messages, favorable messages, and good news messages, take one side. Bad news messages, persuasive requests, take the other side. So they group all the messages under these headings. So when direct request has to be answered saying no, so it means that it has some bad news message, so it goes to the other group of the messages. But sometimes if we take up this way, we get entangled and confused. So instead of adopting this method, I have adopted to take up these messages, these types of letters step by step in our traditional way. This used to be the way in which old books narrated correspondence, letters, messages. So I have taken up this method, and I believe that this is very effective from teaching point of view. So we will pick up one type of letters, let's suppose inquiry letters, and then we will discuss all the types of inquiry letters which come under the direct organizational plan, and we will also discuss the letters which have some bad news or which come under the inductive organizational plan. So we'll be doing this way. As I just said, we'll be starting with inquiry letters or direct request. Again, I would make this statement that if I pick up any book that was taught during 60s, 70s, and normally these books used to give us all those types of letter which make any request or which were used to seek any information under the heading of inquiry or inquiry letters. But now the writers on this topic have started using the term request instead of inquiry, though there are some writers who still use these terms simultaneously, side by side, making a difference between the two. For example, to define inquiry, they say people write inquiry letter when they ask for information, when they seek some information about the product or services, and people write direct request when they want some specific action to be taken. So this is how they differentiate these two types of messages. However, basically, whether we call them direct request or we call them inquiry letters, in inquiry letters we seek information. We seek information about services, about products. We write letters to seek some appointment, to have some reservation. We write letters to ask about the products of a company, about the services of a company. So we have buying inquiries in this way. And we make some general request regarding a lot of things, to ask for some promotional material from any organization. And also we write sometime persuasive requests. So if I just group all these types of letter, we can say that we write letters seeking information, which include all these types, and answers to these questions, these letters are also discussed under the same heading, inquiry letter or direct request. So we have one type of letter which seek information, and we have other type of letter which give information. And the third type of letter are discussed when we say no to any information that was sought from us. So there we can have three types of letters giving information, letters seeking information, and letters saying no to any information, I mean giving bad news. We'll go through what it is when this heading comes. So we begin with the letter seeking information. Under this heading we'll be discussing letters written to seek some appointment and to have some reservation, and also some journal request. How do we make journal request regarding any sort of information? So to begin with, let's suppose that you've been promoted manager of services, and your duty involves providing services to your executives, your head of the department, and your supervisor, etc. All the incoming and outgoing mails goes through your office. You are responsible for keeping all the information that is needed by any of the executive or your supervisor, and you have to take care of the supplies needed. So you are newly appointed to this position, and you have a situation. You, while looking for the catalogs for a certain office supplier, you have come to know that the information with you is not updated. So you have to write a letter. Whenever you have to write a letter, what should be in your mind? You have to think of certain guidelines to begin with. What are you thinking in this situation? Remember that when you are in such a situation, suppose it's you who are to write a letter, what should be the guideline for you? First of all, you should write a very courteous letter, because you are going to seek some information. So tone of your letter should be very courteous. Then it should have completeness principle in it. I mean, you must completely narrate what you want. So you have to provide all the information that you are looking for, that you want. So give complete information. So you have to think of completeness principle when you have to get this completement by having 5 W's and 1 H. Similarly, you have to think of other qualities of business letter. After having gone through some of the qualities, you have sat and you have written a message like this, that please send me the latest catalog of your product. So you think that since you needed this very product, the purpose of writing was to have the catalog of the product. So with this line written, you have explained what you wanted, and you have achieved conciseness. This was somewhere in your mind that you must write very concise sentence. So think that if you write such a sentence as a complete letter, is this letter is sufficient? Is this letter serve you the purpose that you wanted to achieve? Does this letter have all the qualities that we've been discussing all around? So you'll see that this letter does not have any of the qualities. So far as the first quality is concerned, this letter demands rather than ask. I mean, please send me the catalog of your latest product. So this letter demands rather than ask. So you have to think this aspect, that while seeking some information, you don't have to adopt a demanding tone, because though the message is favorable, the reader of the message is waiting for such inquiries, because his business depends on these inquiries. But you have to think of the tone, because with such a tone, you are actually not asking any information, you are demanding, and this conveys a negative feeling from your side. Beside that, it lacks the necessary information that we've been asking. I mean, we have been discussing direct plan. Obviously, this letter or this type of letter will be written under direct plan. In direct plan, you begin your letter with the main idea, though the main idea is there, right? Then you don't have to give anything to support main idea. You come to explanation, and in explanation section, you need to provide all the information necessary that we've been discussing. I've shown you a lot of letters in which we've seen that how the necessary information is given. So there is no need for including any sale promotion material, educational material, or other types of material, or anything like this, because we are seeking information, and we have to end the letter with a positive ending, friendly positive ending. So this letter lacks all these qualities. But when suppose you wrote this letter, and I drew your attention to these aspects, and you have revised your letter, and after having revised this letter, you have come up with a version like this. You say that, dear sir, in consulting our files of catalogs of office equipment and supplies and checking them off against various manufacturers and distributors, I discovered that I do not have your latest catalogs and price list and other information concerning your products. I have some material, of course, but they are out of date. I've just been promoted to the position of Office Services Manager of Bright Associates, and I think one of the first thing I must do is to build a good reference source for me and my staff to use in selecting appropriate equipment, material, and supplies. For this reason, I would like to request that you send me your latest catalog and price list and other product information you may have in your possession at your earliest convenience. In addition, I would be most grateful if you would put my name on your mailing list so that I will receive all new materials. Thanking you for your cooperation, I remain sincerely. So if you look at this letter, it's a very long letter, it's provide information, right? And it is one way, it's a very direct letter. It will certainly create a feeling of sympathy in the heart of the reader, and reader will think that you've been very straightforward, very sincere in communicating your feelings, your needs, your desire. But if you look at this letter from the business point of view, then this letter sacrifices a lot of principles of business communication. I mean, first of all, it gives unnecessary information. Though by including this thing that you've been recently promoted, you have developed a rapport with the reader. But in business communication, we do not include such personal issues in correspondence. So this letter includes a lot of information that is quite unnecessary. Then it has used language which is hackneyed, deadwood. For example, I would be most grateful if you would put my name on your... We don't use such expression, and we have in detail discussed these things that we should replace these long expression with very crispy short expressions, or one word or maybe a phrase. Similarly, if you look at the end of the letter, the specific action is made but not a dated action. The last sentence of the letter is not a complete sentence, thanking you for your cooperation. This type of ending is not made these days. Instead of this, you could have said simply thank you. So it would serve your purpose. But let's look at this letter and analyze this letter one by one, that how we should have written this letter since you were writing it. So let's look at it. What is the problem with this letter in detail? Certainly, this letter satisfied the first guidelines. It has courtesy in it. If you were the recipient, you would quickly be able to sense the writer's sincerity and gratitude, as I was saying it to you. But in the business letters, we do not include such personal issues. On the other hand, the writer has completely ignored the second principle, and that is a very important principle, and that is conciseness. The writer has not taken care of. He has written in details, giving everything to the reader, and that mars the principle of conciseness. So this letter lacks conciseness. There is no reason for writer to tell their life story in a simple request letter. I mean, people are not interested what you say. Similarly, it has a lot of, as just I said, it has a lot of expressions which are unnecessary. For example, I would be grateful if you put my name, etc., or I would appreciate you, or thanking you for your cooperation. These are not important. They mar the beauty of a letter. We have to write a letter considering completeness, considering clarity, considering conciseness, considering concreteness, and all those other principles that we've been discussing, and all the subheadings that we discussed in detail when we were discussing these things. So again, if the first letter was very brief and lacked courtesy, this letter has an overdose of courtesy and has unnecessary information. So what should we do in such a situation? When encountered with such a situation, we have to keep all those principles before us and start writing. We have to think of the basic plan, and the plan is the main idea, explanation, and then a friendly close, right? So keeping these things in mind, if we rewrite this letter a third time, we'll have a better letter, and we can see that how by thinking of all those principles, we've been able to write a very befitting letter that suits our purposes. So, dear sir, may I have your latest catalog and price list and other information about your office supplies and equipment? I would also like to be placed on your regular mailing list so that I'll receive all new sales and promotional literature. Thank you. So if you look at this letter, revised third time, this letter is a concise letter. This letter has courtesy in it. This letter has completeness in it. This letter has clarity. So this letter can be an example for all those people who are interested to learn what business communication is, who are interested to write messages which are appropriate, which are to the point, and which always achieve their desired result, which serve them as they want them to do. So this type of letter are written when we want to make journal request about services and product of any company. Another type of letter which are also very sensitive are the letters that are written for appointments or a reservation. So when we are writing letters for appointment or for reservation, we have to take care of again some guidelines to write letters. For example, when you want to have some appointment with somebody, right, what do you think of? When you, especially in a business context, when you want some appointment with the person, you want to go and you want to invite somebody to your office. Obviously, first of all, you want to give the person for writing that request upfront. I mean, the person reading the letter should know that what's the purpose of giving that appointment. And then you have to relate that appointment with some benefit that the reader is going to achieve. Unless this benefit is there, this benefit can be in terms of some monetary benefit or in terms of some organizational responsibility or anything like this, but it should be there. So after this, what you have to think of? You have to think of the venue of the meeting. For example, where you are going to meet, in the office of your reader or somewhere outside the office. It may be a restaurant where you are inviting the reader of the letter to have a lunch, to have a dinner with you, and you are going to discuss a certain issue. So this is there that you have to talk about the venue, you have to talk about the date, you have to talk about the time, right? This is very important that you must convey these things to your reader, so your reader could know that when he is supposed to have meeting with you. And there is another point which we can include, that sometime this program may be a tentative one, and so you can write that whether all the things are acceptable to the reader. He should give you a call in that case, or he should tell you that when he is free to see you. So you have to think of these things, and in the end you have to make the action some dated action that you want the reader to take. So whenever you are concerning with, think of the guideline that I just discussed. So keep it in your mind. State the purpose of the appointment you are requesting upfront. If you need to sell the meeting ideas to other person, be sure to state the purpose in terms of benefit to other person. For example, maybe talk, I have a couple of ideas that could save us some money, ideas about how you can. So if you start your letter with such a beginning, with such a start, the reader is surely inclined to read what you are going to say. So he can have the purpose of the meeting right up front. So you can start your such messages, appointment messages with such a beginning. Similarly, you can begin your message in another way when you've been referred to that person by somebody else telling this thing is important. So you can start your letter like this: a colleague of mine and yours, Ahmed's son, mentioned you and I should get together to discuss our mutual interest in distributing our products in Multan. I have some information you may find useful, and I'm sure you too can share some insights with me about the appropriate market. So you can include such a beginning in your letter for appointment. So these type of beginning are meant to include, to bring the writer into the frame in which he is ready to read what you want to say. So he knows the purpose, and he also feels that there is some benefit for him to accept your appointment. Similarly, next to it is that suggest a meeting place, date and time, but show concern for reader's own schedule by asking for him or her to confirm or to suggest an alternate time if possible. So you can include such sentences in your letter. I can be at your office at 11 Monday morning if that's convenient for you. If not, call me with another suggestion. So if you include such a meeting place, time and schedule into your letter, it is just meant to give easy reading to your reader. The reader will be able to make a decision on such a message that whether the meeting, the appointment is acceptable to him or not. So after giving this suggested meeting time, you can give all the details for the reader to confirm the appointments. So such a sentence can help you. Would you mind phoning my secretary to confirm? If I don't hear from you, otherwise I'll see you in your office on May 15 at so and so. So when you include such a sentence in your letter, this helps the reader to take the appropriate action. Similarly, you can include any preparation that is either of you need to make for the meeting. That is another point that needs to be included in such a letter, that you might need some preparation for this purpose. So such sentence can be very helpful. I have enclosed an agenda. I would like your comments, particularly on the dry cleaning project. Or please bring the annual meeting report with you to the meeting. I'm looking forward to your comments about the contract clause and dispute. Could you be ready to present your opinion about the new labor policy? So such inclusions into your messages can help your reader to make up his mind about the appointment. Business people are very busy. They have little time to spend during their working hours for activities not relating to their benefit. So in that case, you need to take care of all these things which are very important. You have to think of the purpose, as we've been discussing, that whenever you are going to write anything, the most important thing to think of is to have the purpose. Then you have to relate your purpose to your audience. So as just we saw, that you have to relate your purpose to your audience by showing him some interest, some benefit, and then you have to talk about the time, about the place, about the date. All these things are important, and then you have to ask for the acceptance of the reader, whether that schedule, that appointment is timetable is acceptable to him, or if he wants any change, and give easy reading by telling him that how he can approach you in case of any change. And then similarly, when we have business meeting, we do discuss some issue, and sometimes we need some material regarding that issue. For example, we are discussing about any project, so we may need the feasibility report, or we are discussing the cost of the project, we may need some other report, financial report, or any type of material that that can give us easy, that can help us in making our discussion fruitful. So written appointments by using all these guidelines can be very effective. So let's look at a message that was written by keeping all these guidelines. Dear Ahmed, as we discussed in Islamabad several weeks ago, I like to stop by your office when I'm in Karachi in May to discuss our magazine's project. I'll be available all day May 6 and the morning of May 7. Would you let me know where and when would be convenient for you? I'll be confirming traveling arrangements on Tuesdays, so I'd appreciate a call before then. So if you look at this letter has all the qualities of that we've been discussing. I mean, it has all the principles of business communication, and it has all the guidelines that we've just discussed. If you look at this, the purpose of the letter is given upfront. In the first sentence of the letter, the reader understands the purpose of the letter, and then it has the details about the meeting venue, where it is to take place, when it is to take place, the days are given in it, and it also asks for the acceptance of the reader, whether this schedule of the meeting is acceptable, or in case of any change, the writer of the letter can be approached. And similarly, the ending of the letter, look at the ending, very positively and friendly, and dated action is given. So this letter can be very helpful for this purpose. Let's have another letter having all these qualities in it. Dear Naim, could we get together for lunch about 12:30 August 21st at the Pearl across the street from your office? I now have available the latest figures on the project cost and need your comments about them. Please call my office to confirm whether you will be able to make lunch that day. If not, would you please give me an alternative date? So if you look at this letter provides complete information to the reader, what the reader requires to confirm the appointment. He knows the purpose. He has all the explanation. He knows that why we are going to have this meeting, where we are going to have this meeting, at what time, everything that is required to take an action. So this is that type of request which is made to have some specific action. When you want somebody to take some specific action. So these are direct requests which are written to seek some appointment and some reservation. So we have just discussed half of this type of communication. I mean, the appointment letters, how we can seek appointments whenever we want to. Before we go on to reservation, I would like to have another letter with you. I would like to share. Sometimes we do not seek appointment simply to discuss something with the reader. Sometimes we want to give some demonstration of our product, or we want somebody to come to our premises to give some demonstration about their product. So, or we also want somebody to give some sort of regarding their services. So again, in these type of message, we are using all the guidelines that we've been discussing, and these letters also come under the same heading. So instead of going into detail which are almost the same, I want you to have a letter with me. So, dear Mr. Ali, I'd like to demonstrate our new XCL fax machine to you in your office on Monday, March 21st at 3 p.m. You'll be able to judge the accurate performance of this new model as described on the enclosed brochure. I'll call you next week to make this date. So if you read it, this letter has all the qualities that we've been discussing when you want to seek this appointment. So all these letters taken together are meant to achieve the purpose that we want to achieve. They have all the qualities of good letters, and as I told you, and I've always been telling you, that you must read good letters as well as bad letters, because good and bad letters both help you in improving your own letter writing. The best thing for this is to read a letter and then think of the situation in which this letter was written, and then try to make a letter of your own. See that, and then after having written it, compare all these two letters, your letter and the model letter. Or if you are improving upon any letter that is not good, so compare those two things and you will find the difference, and this thing will take you towards good letter writing habits. So let's think of, now you want to reserve some room in some hotel, right? So you want to reserve some room in some hotel. If you write such a letter, please reserve a room for me in your hotel. I'll be reaching at a certain date. You give some date and you post this letter. What action had you in mind the reader should take after reading your letter? You wanted to have a room, but the information that you have provided is not complete. This letter does not give any complete information. Remember that when such short examples of incorrect letter or incomplete letters are read or given to you in these lectures, or you find them in books of communication, what do you think the reader or the teachers have written them themselves? No, not at all. These are actually the example taken from the real life situation. People write such small letters, incomplete letters, people receive. I mean, you keeping all these things that we've been discussing in your mind, you just check any file in your, if you are in an organization, or if you can have access to any organization which lets you check their file of journal inquiries, you will see that you will have all types of incorrect letter that we've been discussing. So whenever such a letter is cited for your understanding, it doesn't mean that we have just contrived this letter. This letter is very much somewhere in some file, right? So coming back to it, this letter does not achieve its purpose because you have not mentioned the duration of your stay. You have not mentioned the type of the room. You have not mentioned the exact time of your arrival, and so a lot of information. Because for a room to reserve, the personnel of the hotel needs a lot of information. So unless you send the information, or there is already some understanding between you and the people of a certain hotel, any reservation is not possible. So whenever you have to write a letter, you have to think of the plan. Obviously the direct plan is before you are going to start with the main idea and then coming to explanation. But when you are coming to explanation, you have to think of a lot of things, all the information that is necessary to provide. And what is the necessary information in this case? We have different things in our mind. For example, in appointments we think of something else, In reservation, we think of something else. In making request for some information, we have certain other necessary details to write in the letter. So information that comes under the heading of explanation in a direct plan varies from topic to topic. So this is very important that we should keep this thing in our mind, that what we have to include in this type of letter, what we have to include in that type of a letter. And when I say that this type and that type, it means that in this situation or in that situation. You know that if you pick up any book on communication, I mean there are a lot of books on communication, the letter, the model letter or example letter is always given under some situation, so that you could think of that in certain case what you have to include and what you have not to include. So coming back to it, when we are encountered with letter of this type for reservation, we have to take care of few things which are very important, otherwise we won't be able to achieve the purpose that we have in our mind before writing this letter. So number one is, in request for reservation, always take care number of adults and number of children. You must include that how many people are going to stay, 1 people or 2 people. So in case of, so that the person needing to know that it's a single bedroom or a double bed room. So number one is that tell how many adults and how many children are going to stay in the hotel. Number two is number of rooms. Sometimes you want 1 room, sometimes if you are more people, you need more rooms. So number of room, 1, 2, 3. Number and size of beds per room. Again, it's important that you want single bed or double bed. Duration of stay. You want to stay for overnight, for 2 nights or more than, give the date. And arrival and departure times, days and dates. When you are reaching, in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, or sometime at certain time of the night. So when you are reaching there and when you are going to have a check-off, right? So this is very important, so that the people arranging the reservation should know that for which time you are going to stay in their hotel and how many rooms you required. If you are going to make any reservation for your business purpose, you also need to mention, or you also made to request for a corporate rate, so that you could achieve this facility. If all big hotels, you know that they provide business people some certain rate. So this is also very important. So writing a reservation, you have to think of all these things. You have to give the number of adults, number of children, you have to give the number of rooms, you have to tell about the beds, whether single or double, you have to tell the duration of your stay, you have to tell the time of your arrival, the time of your departure, and obviously if you are on a business tour, if your tour is business related, you have to make a request for the corporate rates. So after keeping all these things in mind, you come to write. And if you write a letter for reservation, you write a letter like this: gentlemen, please reserve a room with 1 double bed for 1 adult for 6 nights, Sunday, March 21st through Friday, March 29. I would appreciate receiving written confirmation before March 9. So, what do you think about this letter of reservation? Is it complete? Does it have clarity? Is it concise or not? Is it concrete? I mean, isn't it definite, vivid? So, whenever you have to write messages, messages having some direct request, messages having inquiry in it. You have to think of all these things that we've been discussing. A certain guideline is there. Before writing, you have to think of all the principles, and then you have to think of the organizational plan. You must have seen that how important organizational plan is. It simply guides you at every step. When you have to move right, when you have to move left, you have to sit down or you have to stand up. All these things are there for you in the plan. It is some sort of a teacher available with you all the time, not in the class time, but every time. But only thing is whether you have kept this teacher in your mind or not. So whenever you are writing, and you must start right now, because this is the time that you should write for your exam purpose. And obviously if you are working, you are in any organization, start writing it. Look at the messages that comes, incoming messages, outgoing messages. See whether they conform to these principles. Look at the messages for their clarity, for the conciseness, for their language, simple language. Language is very important. You must start learning simple English. I mean, for that matter, you need to improve your structure. Remember, I've been discussing structure and we'll be discussing it later on too. I want that you must have a very clear idea about sentence structure. You must be able to distinguish what are simple sentences, what are compound sentences, what are complex sentences. Because without having a clear-cut knowledge of these sentence structures, you cannot write good English. So for writing good English, it is very important. Now what you have to do is, you have to think of certain situations. And in those situations, what type of messages you will be supposed to write. So think of the situation and then start writing it. And you know that whenever you have to write a message, you have to think of all these things. So let's see that what we have discussed so far. We have discussed that inquiry letters and request letters are basically are of three types. Normally, whenever we want to seek any information, we write inquiry letters, and whenever we want to give any information, we won't write inquiry letters. And sometimes we write letters which are also under this head, in which we simply refuse to give any information, decline any request for any information. I try to make clear the difference between inquiry letter and direct request. As I said that nowadays we use the word direct request, and previously we use inquiry. Even though even now some people make a difference between these two. They say that inquiry, people write inquiry letter to seek to ask for some information, and people write direct request when they want some specific action to be taken by somebody. So in this is the difference between. And then inquiry letters are written for having some journal to make some journal request, or there are also buying inquiries when we write inquiries with the purpose of buying some product or hiring some services. And inquiry letters are written for making appointments and for making a reservation. So we today discuss two types of letters, in which journal request is made, as I just gave you in the beginning, a letter which we then revised later on, and we saw that how an improved letter can be effective, can have all the qualities of communication. Similarly, then we discuss appointment letters, that how we should seek appointment by putting in all those guidelines that we've been discussing. So then we talked about reservation. So I'm sure that after having all these letters, you must have made up your mind to start writing, because they must have provided you some impetus, some motivation to start writing. And to start writing, as I always said, just said that you must read good letters and you must read bad letters, and make a comparison of these good and bad letters, and then you write your own letters. I'm sure that if you follow this guideline, if you are determined to improve your communication skills, your written communication skill, and your oral communication skill. Obviously, we have not yet discussed some topic on oral communication skill. We have touched at some times in our previous lecture on this topic, but in later topics, later lectures, we will be certainly having some topic precisely on this issue. So look at the principle that can help you in learning good written communication skill, and that can help you in learning good oral communication skills. So with this, we finish our today's lecture, and we'll discuss other types of inquiry letters in our next lecture. Thank you very much for the day. Khuda Hafiz.